Part 37. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 377. The scene of the battle returned to silence. Ika's shelling penetrated the wall of the floor, and only the howling of the wind could be heard passing through the hole. The two aliens left no traces that could prove their existence, leaving the man in sunglasses alone to watch. It was as if the person who was sacrificed in front of him was not one of his subordinates, and his emotions could not be seen from his eyes under the sunglasses. After destroying the two mutated aliens and showing their fangs, Ika and Ling did not point their weapons at the man in sunglasses. Parasite Beast, a divine technology based on the same principle as whole monks. I didn't expect to be able to see both of these rare things today. I'm so lucky. Ika twirled the twin guns around her fingers, causing them to turn into magic particles and dissipate, disarming her. The man in sunglasses still held an unlit cigarette between his fingers. He took out a lighter and lit himself. Aren't you from the Chamber of Commerce? Although we are not from the Chamber of Commerce, we can bring you greater benefits than them. Oh? What about the price? It won't be a benefit that comes out of thin air, right? The price is very simple. Give us all the information you know about the Chamber of Commerce. We don't need two chambers of commerce here, and your workshop doesn't need two trading partners, right? Ika took out the pyramids and irregular-shaped stones that emitted colorful light from the metal box on the ground, and threw them at the feet of the man wearing sunglasses. The pyramid emitting colorful light is the source of power at the core of the light. It only takes one such pyramid to release the magic power that keeps the building suspended. It is precisely because the core technology of light fiber is brought into full play that the spectacular scenery of rich floating urban clusters unique to the Protoss has been created. The man in sunglasses did not pick up the stone in front of him. His sunglasses began to automatically analyze the composition of the stone. That was indeed the original stone before it became a colorful pyramid, and the difference in value between the two was close to 10 times or more. If there are greater benefits, we will naturally welcome them with open hands. But this kind of thing is kept in the research institute of the gods. If it is not one of our own people, it shouldn't be that easy to take out this kind of thing, right? Even if we are really sent by the gods to approach you, you must have secured a retreat, right? The man in sunglasses smiled unquestioningly at Ika's words. If you can tell me where this stuff comes from, we might have a chance to work together. As for how this came about, we naturally have our own channels. Even the workshop and the Chamber of Commerce have always maintained a mutually reserved relationship like this. Ika activated his mechanical alchemy ability and reconstructed the double guns and long-barreled artillery that he had just used in front of the man in sunglasses. This is my magic costume, and its ability is mechanical alchemy. Have you heard of this name? It turns out to be the Kin's family of mechanical alchemy. Isn't this a celebrity who has become famous in the BZ Empire recently? How did he end up in a place like this? Sure enough, this smuggling group has some kind of close relationship with the BZ Empire. Ika wanted to take advantage of this, so she used this method to prove her identity with the mentality of giving it a try. I think since you have learned so much about us, you should know that we can no longer stay in the BZ Empire. I heard that Her Royal Highness the Princess of the BZ Empire is in your hands. She is a condemned prisoner for treason. Do you regard her as a bargaining chip? It does include such a plan. We are now sneaking into the territory of the gods, and the BZ Empire is chasing us, so we need your technology. In contrast, the ability of mechanical alchemy should be the best for your workshop. Can you use the power? Mechanical alchemy can complete the manufacturing of mimicry magic equipment based on design concepts. As long as the information of both parties is shared, it can undoubtedly become a productivity worth considering. The man stared at Ika with his eyes under black sunglasses, staring at him as if he wanted to see Ika completely through the lenses. After a few seconds, his eyes moved to Ling. I heard that all the people working with you are women. Is this the one? Although it seems that you have only heard about us, you should already know her identity as soon as you saw her weapon, right? Since it is the light flame sword, this young lady must be the eldest lady of the Heinz family. In that case, I am also very lucky today. I actually have the opportunity to directly interact with the two people known as the Bis Twin Towers. The big family talks about deals. In addition, we also have support from the Protoss, who are responsible for supporting us, mainly ensuring the purchase channels for rough stones. We are preparing to make a comeback from here. It shouldn't be difficult if we have your technical support, right? In other words, Ica and the others have channels that can provide huge benefits to the workshop. It wasn't until the official performance that Ica truly realized that she really couldn't perform. Although he seemed to be able to do it with ease on the surface, he was afraid that his lies would be exposed at some point and arouse suspicion. Since you are preparing to help Lan Mingyila, didn't the noble princess come here in person? Of course we brought her with us, but is the environment just now really suitable for our most important bargaining chip to take the lead? Ica snapped her fingers, and Lan Ming's figure appeared at the rusty iron door. She came here alone, without a companion. Haha, it seems that it is indeed Her Royal Highness Princess Lan Mingyila herself. I really didn't expect that the war between the Bis Empire and the Tiberai Kingdom is in full swing, and Her Royal Highness the Princess, who is the cause of everything, is actually here. When a snipe and a clam quarrel, the fisherman gets the benefit. This has been a saying since ancient times. There are countless people waiting to reap the benefits of the fisherman. Lan Ming walked gracefully between Ica and Ling. Her mere presence here greatly increased the credibility of what Ica and the others said. So can the workshop provide us with convenience now? Compared to the small chamber of commerce, the benefits of our side are clear, right? I think the group of people behind you should have the same idea as me. The deal proposed by the exiled princess was undoubtedly worthy of careful consideration, and no one would take her words lightly. You are not the only one who assisted Lan Mingyala in his escape, right? What about the others? I can't guarantee that I won't be stabbed in the back by one of my own. This sentence also applies to us. Ica was not so rash as to agree to all the conditions proposed by the other party. Overcompromising would arouse suspicion. They are also the insurance we have given ourselves. Regarding Ica's strong attitude, the man in sunglasses just smiled indifferently, and Ica returned the smile provocatively, waiting for the other party's reply. A few seconds after their eyes met, it was the other person who put away his fangs first. Please mortgage Lan Mingyila to me first. This kind of insurance is more reassuring, right? Lan Ming didn't ask for anyone's permission, but went straight to the man, because it was her own will. When she was only half a meter away from the man in sunglasses, chains engraved with runes bound her wrists. A wave of deep fatigue came over him, but thanks to the harmonious resonance of the candle dragon's molten gold that maintained the flow of magic in his body, Lan Ming persisted in standing in front of him. 1 for 1, isn't this a bad deal? Don't stay too far away from me, Your Majesty. The man took Lan Ming as a hostage, and his intention couldn't be more obvious. The runes engraved on the chain may not only be used to limit magic power, but may also have other means to ensure that Ica and the others can be effectively restrained from taking unexpected actions. Come with me. The man in sunglasses threw the lit cigarette butt back, and the wall behind him suddenly exploded. The smoke was quickly swept away by the strong wind blowing in from outside the cave, and a deep and dark tunnel appeared from the wall. Although it is an independent building, the tunnel seems to extend infinitely and is unexplorable. The man in sunglasses stepped into the tunnel first and turned to look at Lan Ming, who had not yet moved. Gently exhaling the breath that was suppressed in his chest, Lan Ming followed the man's footsteps. From beginning to end, she never turned around and made any eye contact with Ica and Ling. Because the development so far has been in the well-written script. Lan Ming's appearance was originally to win the trust of the other party, and becoming the hostage of the man in sunglasses was not an unexpected development. Ika and Ling looked at each other and both stepped into the entrance of the tunnel. The dark tunnel is not as endless as the eyes first saw. On the contrary, as soon as I took a few steps, my eyes suddenly opened up. At the end of the tunnel is another airship, which is the escape route the man in sunglasses has prepared for himself. That tunnel was actually a kind of teleportation magic. The airship was quietly docked on the roof of an abandoned building in an unknown airspace. That man with sunglasses, you already know our names, but you've never said what we should call you, right? Ling asked the man. The man in sunglasses just raised one hand slightly and showed her the numbers on the back of the black fingerless gloves. It's the number 5. Is this code name simple and clear? Just call me No 5. After boarding the airship, the miniature airship, which could only accommodate up to 5 people, seemed a little crowded. It seems that the workshop sent only 3 people including 2 parasitic beasts to conduct the transaction, while the Chamber of Commerce sent 2 artificial humans. I originally thought it would be a large-scale smuggling group, but from this perspective, it seems to be a huge contrast. After the airship closed the hatch, Ling began to advance the core purpose of this operation. Is it convenient for you to tell us the information about the Chamber of Commerce now? If this operation can defeat the Chamber of Commerce in one fell swoop and at least inhibit the flow of mimicry magic equipment to the outside world, it will naturally be the most ideal result. But number 5 just laughed mockingly. It's probably impossible to replace the Chamber of Commerce with just you guys. Why? The Chamber of Commerce is not a business organization. Although you regard the Chamber of Commerce as a thorn in your side, it seems that your investigation of them is not enough, right? As far as we know, the Chamber of Commerce didn't have many signs of activity before the appearance of the mimic magic equipment. Your body is actually still the workshop. They shouldn't have done so after the workshop created the mimic magic equipment. A rapidly growing upstart. This is the information the gods got about the Chamber of Commerce. The so-called Chamber of Commerce is actually the shell of a smuggling group. They are a business organization that gradually became prosperous by smuggling mimicry magic clothing. Number 5 snorted at the information they had received and began to fly the airship vertically into the air. Lan Ming sat in the passenger seat closest to driver's seat number 5. This airship did not use fully automatic driving to follow a preset route, but manually customized the route. Without number 5, it would be impossible to grasp the final destination location of the airship. The Chamber of Commerce is not such a simple organization. I will kindly tell you this. The airship broke through the top speed in an instant, flew among the floating buildings, and left the airspace where it had just docked in the blink of an eye. Number 5, are you human? So what? Is it necessary to specifically confirm this kind of question? The Chamber of Commerce sent whole monks made with the technology of the gods to trade with you, but they need you to provide the key to get through the enchantment of the territory of the gods. Your workshop used human magic technology to create the mimicry magic equipment. The 2 men following you are parasitic beasts similar to hall monks. It's hard not to be curious about the specific situation inside you. I don't know if it was to avoid revealing important information, but number 5 did not answer Ling's question. He just snorted from his nose and stopped talking. The people above you should be able to see or hear the conversation between us now, right? Lan Ming's hands were still restrained by the rune-covered chains, and she observed the subtle expression changes on No 5's face with the corner of her eye. Number 5 also did not answer Lan Ming's question, and his eyes hidden under his sunglasses did not reveal his inner thoughts. Silence represents acquiescence. In the eyes of the people above you, we are not enough to replace the Chamber of Commerce, right? Yeah, you can't replace the Chamber of Commerce. It's just because you, or only you, have value. So, we are just accessories. The deal may have ended in failure. Perhaps it can't even be called an accessory. Number 5 left the last words that marked the breakdown of the negotiations. To be precise, You are just victims. And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 378. The moment before Ika and Ling came into contact with the smuggling group, Teacher Letica was working with the children of the Sea Mist Fleet in the floating city cluster around the palace to help prepare for the last day before the Girls' Day celebration. Just after half a day's work, Teacher Letica and the head attendant returned to the palace with the group of energetic children. I wonder how Ika and the others are doing. Did brother say you won't be back tomorrow? He didn't seem to have said that. Then eldest brother will definitely resolve all the incidents and return here tomorrow. Because eldest brother will never let my sister's expectations go in vain. It's just that I can't let go, it feels like this. Teacher Letica smiled sheepishly at Ruby, who was trying to comfort her. I don't know whether I should regard it as luck or misfortune that the smuggling group revealed its tale the day before the throne handover ceremony. Although Ika and Ling had a tacit understanding as partners, after receiving the information, they immediately boldly formulated several possible plans based on the scattered information. However, if they continue to develop according to their plan and successfully sneak into the smuggling group's lair, they will not be able to come back before at least tomorrow. Moreover, Lan Ming, the core figure who was originally planned to be introduced in the handover ceremony, went with them. In this case, there would be no time to arrange the handover ceremony tomorrow. I was just wondering why the man who made his own decisions is not here today. It turns out he went to do something interesting. If I had known earlier, I would have gone with him. Zio, who was holding big and small bags, and the other children, were all arranged by Feli to be next to Teacher Letica. Feli herself also participated in Ika's plan today as a mobile operator. Let's not talk about Big Brother and the others. We need to be well prepared for the handover ceremony tomorrow. Your Highness, Ruby is absolutely right. It was a matter of honor for the royal family. The chief attendant pushed up his glasses and joined in the conversation. Although it was a bit noisy with a bunch of children helping with the preparations for the celebration, there were not so many complicated rules and regulations in the Palace of the Gods. During the few times the Sea Mist Fleet docked in port, Feli would take them to play on the streets every time. Unlike Mentor Letica, who has been away from the territory of the gods for many years, the children have long since integrated into the floating urban cluster near the palace. The children of the Sea Mist Fleet are very active in doing things, and the residents of the Protoss also praise them unanimously. This is probably the result of Feli's training on the ship day and night. Of course, apart from Feli and the children, only Ika knew that Feli took action against the children because of the blood-sucking impulse unique to the vampires. If Ruby's sister becomes the queen, wouldn't Ruby be the little queen? Zio is particularly interested in this kind of thing. In their minds, the queen is probably just an illusory existence in fairy tales. For this reason, Ruby, who is a little more mature, often feels very embarrassed. It's not like that, besides, there is no such thing as a little queen. Ruby slowed down in order to talk to Zio and walked behind Teacher Letica and the head attendant. Won't you go to sea with us in the future? We will definitely stay together. Oh, Ruby is so loyal to us, just like a puppy. You want to say sincerity. And I'm not like a puppy. Now Ruby and Zio's hands are not free, they just bump into and push back with their shoulders. After putting all the tools used when helping out in the storage room, Teacher Letica wanted to go back to her room to rest for a while. Ruby, let them go to the bathhouse first, and you go with them. The children were not prepared to stay in the palace overnight. They had been wandering at sea all year round and could only sleep peacefully when they returned to the ship docked in the port. The children who came to the palace for the first time must be very curious about the outdoor bath that looks like an indoor garden. This is the only reward that Teacher Letica can give them for coming to the celebration today to help. After the noisy little ones left, Instructor Letica and the head attendant returned to the room to simply touch up their makeup. Tomorrow's throne handover ceremony has already been announced to the entire race. Although teacher Letica believed that this was just a formality, and that everyone was more concerned about the Childhood Day celebrations at the same time than the ceremony, it was not meaningless for the future. The reason why the Protoss is a free-spirited race is that it is not restricted by too many restrictions. The rules and regulations for humans do not apply here. Even if she is the queen of the gods, she can only exercise the appeal of a leader. This does not mean that there is a superior-subordinate relationship between teacher Letica and others. After the throne handover ceremony, it may be more difficult to assist me, but I still have to trouble you. This is my job, and I will naturally try my best to make it perfect. The head attendant responded to teacher Letica, who had not seen him for a long time, without being humble or arrogant. Your Highness Letica, it is great that you are willing to come back here. Needless to say, the chief attendant watched Letica grow from an innocent little girl to a tall and graceful woman who can support the entire god clan. She is also the person with the longest seniority in the palace of the gods, although it is not obvious from her young appearance. The king often doesn't do things efficiently enough. Many things that seem troublesome or are really troublesome are left to me. To put it simply, he has never completed his work as a king seriously. I think you can come back at this time, maybe you can share some of my worries. The head attendant turned his back to teacher Letica, who was applying makeup, arranged her clothes, and put on clothes that would only be worn in the palace. Ahaha! Unexpectedly, her father was at the lowest level of the hierarchy in the castle. Teacher Letica laughed helplessly. I never managed these things at home before I left. Her Highness Letica was not very interested in inheriting the family business from the beginning, so I can understand your lack of experience. What I am curious about is why you have changed your mind and come back now. After finally putting on the headgear, the head attendant turned around and looked at teacher Letica through the mirror facing her and asked. This question is not difficult to answer, but teacher Letica just doesn't know how to answer it so that the head attendant can understand the courage she got from Ica. Please don't laugh at me when I say this, okay? I think no matter what the reason is for Lady Letica to change her mind, it is worthy of admiration. The head attendant said this, which reassured teacher Letica a little. Because the beliefs that underpin her may sound childish, too casual, too simple. But teacher Letica had no doubts in him. My student, you said this to me. Then, teacher Letica spoke of the precious belief she had just gained from Ica. After the two arranged their clothes, they left the room. I feel good. The chief attendant only gave a very simple evaluation of Ica's belief. There was neither a joke that Letica would be moved by such a casual argument nor a criticism of such a simple argument. At this moment, the roar of wild beasts seemed to be faintly heard from a place far away from the palace. What happened? I don't think it's a good thing. Teacher Letica and the chief attendant were now preparing to continue the follow-up work of tomorrow's throne handover ceremony, because the unknown voice of the unknown body stopped in their tracks. Please wait a moment. The chief attendant put down the document in his hand. I will confirm the situation around the palace now. The chief attendant can use the light nature elves in the palace as her eyes. She can monitor the situation in every corner of the kingdom at any time. The only shortcoming is that it can only obtain real-time information, so I did not use this ability to find Ica, who secretly hid Way 11's underwear or broke into the women's bath. There has been an attack around the palace. It seems to be a group of parasitic beasts. There are already nearby teams fighting with them, and Her Royal Highness Ruby is also on her way there. Parasite beast? Isn't that a technology that was abolished in the last century? Teacher Letica did not expect that such an ancient term could still be heard 100 years after the end of the cross-border war. Yes, the technology of artificial life forms was abolished by Lord Child after the cross-border war. Since there are still people using this abolished technology, it should be enough to show that the Comer is not evil. Organizations that master technologies that violate moral ethics will not be kind, at least. Now the palace of the gods is no longer a safe zone. Although Ruby has our magic outfit Mist Realm, she doesn't have much combat experience yet, and we also. At this time, Teacher Letica's aurora of mirrors felt abnormal magic fluctuations around her. There was a reaction from a magic suit nearby, but it was an unfamiliar wave that I had never been exposed to before. Your Highness Letica, please be careful around you. A thick magic book appeared in front of Teacher Letica, the cross chain wrapped around it broke, and the magic circle with the unfamiliar crest as the center of the structure rotated and unfolded under her feet. Teacher Letica has already entered a battle-ready state. No matter who comes, just deal with it carefully. Immediately afterwards, huge chains penetrated the walls of the castle laterally. The two roads in front and back were blocked by rising flames, and smoke suddenly filled the corridor. A young girl dressed in a dark evening dress holds a mechanical longbow in her hand and sits astride a chain that rises into the air like a giant snake. There was an exquisite stuffed bear lying on her shoulder, and her slightly narrowed eyes were fixed on the instructor Letica and the chief attendant in front of her. Who are you? Misty. The unidentified young girl only told Teacher Letica her name, but still did not indicate her origin. Instead, she pointed to Teacher Letica's magic book with her little finger. Give me that and I'll go back. Is your goal the aurora of mirrors? Misty nodded in affirmation. At the same time, she opened the long bow in her hand, and red arrows appeared between the bow strings. The arrows were as red as forged by molten metal, with a hint of gold. To give or not to give? It seemed that she was not prepared to leave any more options to Teacher Letica, only the two most direct options. Of course, Teacher Letica would not just obediently give up Principal Felice's magical costume. When she knew that the negotiations would not proceed, she immediately launched a counterattack. Several beams of light shot out in an instant, simultaneously destroyed the giant steel snake that was the girl's foothold, and at the same time launched a pursuit without missing a beat, aiming at the mechanical longbow in her hand. Even though her footing was unstable, the girl still showed no panic and let go of the bowstring in response to the oncoming threat. The interactive reaction caused by the two magic powers of red and red gold involved the entire corridor in the explosion. The head attendant did not support Teacher Letica from behind. She is not good at fighting, let alone fighting between magic equipment holders. Her mission is to record the battle between Retica's mentor and Misty. At the same time, she conveyed the current situation to the palace and the team sent to investigate. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 379. You are just victims. With these words, number 5 activated the transfer magic that had been arranged in the driver's seat, and his figure disappeared together with Lan Ming sitting next to him. At the same time, the control panel showed that the escape hatch at the rear of the airship was open, and it was no longer possible to stop him when he discovered it. That bastard! Ika rushed to the empty driver's seat in a hurry, and the joystick without the driver swayed left and right in vain. The direction the airship is heading now is definitely not the smuggling group's home base, and number 5 deceived them. There was a violent impact from the outside of the airship. The inside of the airship tilted greatly, and the boxes on the ground slid to one side. Ika, we have stepped into their trap. Ling looked out of the side window and saw that he was surrounded by dozens of hostile airships of the same type. Get ready to rush out immediately. This is an abandoned urban area that looks like the border of the Protoss territory. There are already many small armed airships occupying the undefended airspace. Judging from their attack patterns and the controller of this airship, they use the same magic technology as the civilian airships of the BIS Empire. Although the magic shipborne cannon equipped on the enemy airship is small, it is enough to penetrate the deck of the airship that weakens its defense for the sake of speed. The magic light beams are intricately intertwined high in the sky. Without saying a word, he launched a fierce offensive, making it clear that there was no way for the prey that fell into the trap to survive. Ika sat in the driver's seat and took over the manual driving of the airship without even fastening the seat belt. I don't know if it was to avoid leaving Ika and the others a chance to counterattack. Apart from the most basic maneuverability, this airship was not equipped with any weapons and was extremely simple to operate. For Ika, driving this airship to break through the encirclement is as easy as a game. Ling, can you find Lan Ming's location? Wait a moment, we can still find it? It happens to be in the direction you are going. The escape plane number 5 is not much faster than us. If it goes faster, we can catch up. Fortunately, Lan Ming still has our transmitter on him. In order not to be discovered, the transmitter has been specially processed and hidden in Lan Ming's hairpin. But breaking through a path in this hail of bullets to chase the escape machine is not something that can be done just by thinking about it. Seeing that the distance between the escape plane and the airship was gradually widening, Ika tried hard to calm down the anxiety in her heart and piloted the airship to flexibly avoid the surrounding attacks. Although Lan Ming took the initiative to become a hostage in this operation, Ika would never let this happen. I don't ask this because of my status as a princess. Didn't Ika say that he hopes I will live as Lan Ming? Now is the meager strength I want to contribute to everyone as Lan Ming. If I were just a Lan Ming girl, no matter how I was treated, it wouldn't become an international issue. In fact, it shouldn't matter if I admit it, right? I just want to accompany you to do adventurous things. If this heart-wrenching feeling is wasted, Ika will never forgive the self-proclaimed knight. At this time, the unencrypted channel of the airship opened by Ika received a strange signal. Don't worry about the bullets, just step on the accelerator and catch up. Those were the bold words thrown out by Philae. A three-dimensional geometry like a floating fortress appeared in the originally empty sky, and it seemed to have faded away its camouflage and came to dominate the battlefield as the overlord of the airspace. Several hatches into Seekong opened, releasing dozens of flying subships shaped like thin needles. Dozens of subships began to launch a counter-encirclement and suppression campaign against the armed airships that surrounded Ika and the others, and the battle situation reversed in an instant. Into Seekong's command room, Lilu and Karel collapsed on the seats behind them as if they had exhausted all their strength. Thank you for your hard work, little sister Lilu, and Karel. I am the senior sister of classmate Karel. Lilu feebly added to the question she had emphasized so many times, but Philae always went in one ear and out the other, always assuming that Lilu was younger than Karel based on the height difference between the two of them. Your elves' hallucinations are already at the level of magic equipment, right? You can actually use hallucinations to hide such a big thing all the way. This time Philae probably turned a deaf ear to Lilu's protest. She casually dealt with the tired and dissatisfied Rilu and thrust 2 glasses of water into their hands. In fact, Seekong, who was following Ika and the 3 of them, had been waiting nearby as a mobile unit since the beginning of the plan. As the commander, Carolil stayed in the palace due to important matters, so the command was temporarily transferred to Philae according to Ruby's request. When the micro-airship carried Ika and the others at high speed, Seekong also kept sailing at a higher level according to the transmitter in Lan Ming's hairpin. But in comparison, it was not as fast as the micro-airship, so it arrived at the scene a few minutes late. Except for Philae and 2 elven children, the rest of Seekong's cabin were all male gods. Gentlemen, let's not talk nonsense. Show off the glory of our sea fog fleet and drive out the enemies without leaving any trace. Sister, we have been on vacation for more than a year. Don't talk about this big thing, we can't even control the ocean fleet. That's right, eldest sister. It's already difficult for us to be able to control sea to fly such a long distance by ourselves. Are you worthy of the name of the Sea Mist Fleet by saying such things? It's the original crew member, right? That's right, the crew here are all elite crew members of the original Sea Mist Fleet. They were pathetic men who were robbed of their place by underage beauties and had to end their careers and return to the beautiful Protoss territory for vacation. Ah, show me what's going on down there. On the screen in the command room, the airship carrying Ika and Ling had broken away from the encirclement and was speeding away in pursuit of Lan Ming's signal. The crew members who had already been deployed in the Tassi sky drove a one-man subship and started a melee with the blockers sent by the smuggling group. From time to time, dazzling light effects and dull explosions came from the sky. Although both sides have suffered certain losses, it can be seen initially that the gods now have the upper hand. Philae watched the battle situation for a while, tapping the control panel with her fingers, and one of the subships in the cabin began to unlock. Will eldest sister go into battle in person? I see you are so anxious. Philae turned around and left the command room, her cool military uniform flying, and there are very few opportunities to pilot a Tassi Kong. I haven't been so excited for a long time. Pay attention to friendly forces. Pay attention to friendly forces. Sister, be sure not to accidentally injure friendly forces. How is that possible? Don't worry. Philae raised a hand to signal and disappeared behind the door of the command room. The captain of the Sea Mist Fleet, Philae, is now on the battlefield as a berserker who can't tell the difference between friend and foe. Above the clouds, an inconspicuous escape plane was flying at a constant speed. This kind of escape machine is the product of magic technology. It has not yet been cracked by the Protoss, so it has outstanding concealment and maneuverability in the Protoss territory. A molecular power furnace is used as the power source. In order to escape from Ika and the Protoss, the molecular power furnace of the escape machine has just been overloaded and is now in a cooling period. Number 5 was sitting on the console, which could only accommodate one person, checking the status of various parts of the escape machine. Lan Ming was restrained in the back seat by the fixed straps of the seat device. I didn't expect that I, now that I have lost my identity, would still have such a worthy role for you. Should I feel honored? Lan Ming, who had lost his body's freedom and whose flow of magic power was restricted, said this in a tone that could not detect any tension. Number 5 seemed to glance at her from the side of his black sunglasses, but he couldn't see clearly from Lan Ming's position. As expected of the Blue Rose of the Bis Empire, you are already like this, but you are still so tenacious. I don't need to say more about your value, right? Whether you are used as a bargaining chip in the transaction with those two countries, or as a bargaining chip, if you stay with us, you will get unexpected benefits. I see. Do you just need me as an exiled princess? I thought you cared more about my eyes. Do you think the candle dragon molten gold is more important than you? The royal magic equipment is certainly a good thing, but if it is difficult to control, it may lead to self-inflicted fire. At least the workshop already fully understands your magic equipment and does not need to study it anymore. As for the Chamber of Commerce, maybe anyone with magic equipment will be interested. Lan Ming looked at the chains on his wrists, and the fact that he had become a hostage was clearly in front of him. But this time, Lan Ming will no longer wait to hold his helping hand. Even if he becomes a burden, there is still something he can do. Before the light of hope comes to him, he must at least strive to get closer to him. Number 5, do you know about Project Zero? Lan Ming said it without hesitation as it looked like a code name. Number 5 did not answer, and Lan Ming, who was behind him, couldn't tell the answer from his expression. Project Zero was originally a plan to be implemented in the northwest district of the imperial capital. It was proposed in the early days of the establishment of the Bis Empire. The core of this plan was the mass production of magic equipment, and the failed product is the current magic technology. It has been recorded the magic technology in the history of human development is just a failed product of this plan. Doesn't it sound like a joke? There should be hundreds of interpretations for big people. In the final analysis, mass-produced magic equipment is just a fantasy that can't even be called a dream. No one should place their hope on such a fantasy now. To be honest, the mimicry magic equipment is just a failed product of that plan. It was just a prototype when the plan was frozen, and now the workshop has completed the prototype. It seems that you really know something about this plan. When I saw the mimicry magic costume, I was thinking, there should be people from the Northwest District of the Imperial Capital in the workshop, right? Isn't this already seen through by Her Royal Highness the Princess? Number 5 finally pressed one of the buttons on the console, and the magic power of the molecular power furnace began to be consumed rapidly. He stepped off the console and took out a finger-length needleless syringe from under his windbreaker. It's impossible to reach the destination just by flying like this. In the final analysis, this escape machine is just a degraded version of a conventional airship, and the molecular power furnace is just a defective product of the workshop. Now preparing to jump in space may have a negative impact on the body. It's an influence that you can't adapt to, especially if your magic power is still suppressed like you. So please take a nap, princess. Number 5 walked up behind Lan Ming and pressed the needleless syringe against Lan Ming's white neck. Lan Ming, who was restrained by the fixed belt, could not turn around. She only knew that her final struggle could only end here. Although it is a bit regretful, it is not nothing. Don't you feel scared? All the white medicine in the injection tube was pushed into Lan Ming's body without any pain. The effect of the drug is immediate, and the next moment you may fall into a deep sleep without knowing anything. Incredibly, Lan Ming didn't feel the fear Number 5 said deep down in his heart. No, Lan Ming closed his eyes naturally, because my knight will wake me up from my sleep. The medicine spread rapidly in Lan Ming's body, and after saying the last sentence, she fell into a peaceful sleep. Number 5 casually threw the empty needleless syringe on the ground, and the syringe rolled into a dark corner. He returned to the console at the front of the machine. 40% of the preparations for the space jump were completed. At this moment, looking at the sleeping Lan Ming behind him, the face of a girl of the same age appeared in front of No 5's eyes. Is my daughter, whom I haven't seen for many years, blooming like this blue rose at this moment? Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 380. Suddenly, the monitor on the console warned that something was approaching quickly. It was the airship carrying Ika and Ling. The airship, which didn't know how to overtake it from behind, quickly climbed to the front of the escape machine. The only explanation is that they abandoned the molecular power furnace and overtook the escape machine at maximum speed. It can be seen from the trailing black smoke that the excessively worn-out airship is already crumbling. At this time, a figure jumped from the airship. The figure seemed to have wings spread out from behind, heading straight towards the nose of the escape plane. Number 5 immediately activated the armament on the nose of the aircraft. The space jump is about to be completed, and that person must not be allowed to destroy it. The figure with outstretched wings was quickly approaching the nose of the aircraft. If the relative speeds of the two sides remained unchanged, the person would hit the nose of the plane head-on. The boy holding a silver-white cannon barrel, guided by the mechanical wings, passed through the rain of bullets unscathed from the continuous attacks of the cannon, and broke through the window at the nose of the aircraft. Broken glass flew everywhere, and the console was pulled up in place by the force of the impact. Ika crashed into No 5's arms and rolled all the way to the back cabin. The violent impact left a huge dent in the rear cabin door before it stopped, and the escape plane became shaky under the impact. Ika grabbed Number 5 tightly the moment he rolled down, pressed him hard against the sunken hatch, and punched Number 5 in the face. The fist felt like a solid hit, but Ika's abdomen also received a blow with no less force than this. A punch that shook his internal organs forced Ika to bend his knees and slide back to the front of the plane. The two men distanced themselves, not relaxing at all, alert to each other's next move. No 5's sunglasses were completely deformed and shattered by Ika's blow just now. Under the black sunglasses was the resolute face of a middle-aged man. "Boy, Who taught you to board a plane like this? Sorry, I'm not here to board the plane, but to blow you off here. Ike looked at Lan Ming in the back seat from the corner of his eye. The close encounter with number 5 just now did not affect her. Now her chest was still rising and falling steadily. Ike guessed that number 5 had done something to make her fall into coma. The glass splashed from the nose of the plane left an inconspicuous trace of blood on Lan Ming's arm. Fortunately, there seemed to be no other signs of injury. Thanks to the restraint straps that tied her body tightly to the back seat, Ike had to thank number 5 for this, because Ike only had to be careful not to pull the battle line to her side before she could let go of number 5. Fighting. And number 5 took advantage of Ike's slight shift in attention to approach his arms. Ike quickly converted the long-barreled gun body connected to his arms into silver-white twin guns. The handle of the gun hit number 5 hard on the shoulder, which weakened the force of No 5's attack a bit. Number 5, who failed to attack once, raised his leg and kicked Ike to the console. If the force of this kick had been a little stronger, Ike might have fallen from the open nose of the aircraft. In terms of strength, number 5 is even better. If magic was used rashly in the cabin, the escape plane would not be able to last for 10 seconds, so the two started a pure hand-to-hand battle in the cabin. The man in sunglasses got into a boxing stance, spinning his body and delivering a blow. Ike transformed the magic power into a blade at the muzzle of the pistol in her left hand, and collided with the fist wrapped in magic power. The other hand swung the reconstructed long-barreled cannon body, using it as a melee weapon rather than a gun, and slammed it into No 5's abdomen. Then he caught the next blow from number 5 head-on, sweeping across the long-barreled cannon body and jamming his elbow to rotate in an unnatural direction. In terms of combat skills, Ike, who has been on the verge of life and death countless times, is no less than number 5. No 5's left arm was completely useless. He took a few steps back in embarrassment, and his left arm hung limply along with gravity. Ike raised the silver-white long-barreled cannon and pulled the trigger to blast out a huge hole in the sunken rear cabin. The interior of the cabin is connected to the outside world, and the huge pressure difference throws everything that is not fixed in the cabin to the outside world. Number 5, who was still standing still, was also thrown out of the cabin by the irresistible suction force, and disappeared in an instant. If you fall from this height, there is probably no chance of survival. I said I came here just to knock you down, and Ike, whose whole body was aching, grabbed the support on the cabin wall, moved to Lan Ming's side against the suction force from behind, and cut off the belt restraining her with the blade of the gun. The escape machine may disintegrate in the air at any time the next second. Ike gritted his teeth and picked up Lan Ming on his back, moved with difficulty to the hatch he had destroyed, then let go of the support at hand and jumped down. The silver-white mechanical wings spread out from Ike's back again, like wings of freedom, carrying the knight and her princess into the distance in an instant. The battle between Teacher Letica and Misty has never been decided. Hundreds of parasitic beasts were surrounding the Protoss Palace, so Teacher Letica did not ask for additional reinforcements. The power of Misty's magic outfit, Starbow 5 Emperor's One, lies in its ability to withstand the heat of molten magma and its ability to freely change. As long as she has that kind of thought, she can easily burn this divine palace made of stone bricks. Flame arrows and scorching light can be regarded as similar attributes, and there is no mutual restraint relationship. While guarding against the arrows on the string, you also have to avoid the same flexible steel chains. This is the most difficult part of the magic equipment, Starbow 5 Emperor's One, which is just a mechanical longbow. After finally catching the flaw that Misty revealed carelessly, Teacher Letica was about to take away her aggressiveness at once. However, the attack of Jinghua Aurora was attacked by a sniper from an unknown direction, completely deviating from the planned track. Misty took advantage of this opportunity and jumped to distance herself from Teacher Letica and reorganize her posture. From behind the burning flames in the corridor, a girl with swaying long blue hair walked out holding a graceful sniper rifle in her hands. The silver-white sniper rifle blends in perfectly with the girl's graceful figure. The weapon made for war now exudes a soft texture that is incompatible with the cold material, as if it is tailor-made for the girl. The slender gun body is decorated with aqua blue background patterns and silver-white cross-star patterns. The butt, which is slightly lower than the gun body, is engraved with the coat of arms of the Chiz family. The cylindrical sight fixed on the gun body is integrated with the exquisite gun body. The close-fitting jet black dress seemed to be tailor-made for her, like a wedding dress dyed in ink, exuding cold pressure and inexplicable tenderness. Of course, teacher Letica would not be unfamiliar with the girl in front of her. Even though the overall atmosphere was completely different from the past, teacher Letica immediately recognized the identity of this girl. Classmate Lulu. Unexpectedly, she who disappeared a month ago and whom Ika and the others were trying their best to find would actually appear in the territory of the gods. While unable to conceal her inner surprise, teacher Letica briefly communicated with her eyes to inform the attendant who was paying attention to the scene behind her. In fact, the chief attendant had already sent the message about the attack on the palace to the expeditionary force, and it would naturally reach Ika's hands. The top priority now is to tell Ika, who still doesn't know, the information about Lolo's presence here. Lulu's red eyes stared coldly at the teacher Letica in front of him. That was not the cold gaze he should look at his beloved teacher. Classmate Lulu, if you have any difficulties. Instructor Letica hopes to use dialogue to delay as much time as possible. If possible, she does not want to use weapons against her students. Lulu threw a glass bottle to Misty behind him. The glass bottle drew a parabola in mid-air and was caught by Misty. She silently uncorked the bottle and poured the contents onto her exposed arm. The skin burned by teacher Letica's beam of light during the battle turned into powder and floated down, and young skin replaced the wound again. You used what you learned in pharmacy science. I can't praise you for applying what you learned at this time. Then, Lulu took out another glass bottle from her waist, and the glass bottle fell silently from her fingers. When it shattered in contact with the ground, a thick dark mist poured out from the broken bottle like a tide. Instinctively sensing that this was not just a thick fog used to obscure sight, teacher Letica was about to escape when Lolo raised the sniper rifle in her hand and pulled the trigger. Without any special aim, the bullet accurately passed over teacher Letica's calf. The impact of the metal bullet and the pain caused teacher Letica to fall forward to the ground. Although it did not cause serious injuries to teacher Letica, it had achieved its purpose of limiting her mobility. Lulu walked straight to instructor Letica, who fell on the ground, looking down at the instructor who had taken care of him countless times in the past. Give up the aurora of mirrors, I need your magic outfit. Ika-kun probably doesn't want to see you like you are now. Do as I say. Lolo ignored the name that teacher Letica said, and just pressed the muzzle of the sniper rifle against teacher Letica's head. Hurry up. Unless the holder of the magic outfit voluntarily terminates the contract with the magic outfit or dies, it is impossible to forcibly strip the magic outfit away. Misty, go and bring back the other magic outfit here. The holder is her sister. After receiving the order, Misty did not nod or make a sound, and her figure quietly disappeared from the place. Ruby is currently outside the palace supporting the Protoss troops in their fight against the parasitic beast group. If Misty joins the battlefield, it will definitely cause greater chaos. Teacher Letica knew that she had no chance to convince Lolo, and she could not rush to rescue Ruby now that she was unable to escape. She could only pray that Ika could receive the urgent information from the chief attendant. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 381. Ika landed in the open space of the abandoned city with Lan Ming, who was still sleeping. Ling was carrying a PDA, and Ika found her nearby based on the PDA's location. The airship driven by the two men crashed long ago because the molecular power furnace was overloaded. While Ika was taking action, Ling maximized the value of the airship that was about to lose power. Because the emergency landing was successful, There were no serious injuries. Did you get it back? It seems like there's no need to ask. Seeing Ika landing slowly with Lan Ming on her back and putting away her silver-white mechanical wings, Ling showed a smile that finally gave her peace of mind. You are too messy. I am not more nervous than watching you when the airship is about to fall. She walked over with a forced smile and took Lan Ming's body from Ika's back. When Ika, who had just landed, was about to fall, Ling used his other shoulder to support his weight. Although Ika's injuries were not serious on the surface, it was already difficult for him to show off his strength with jokes. The close combat with number 5 on the escape plane brought a heavy burden to the body, and after the battle, he had to carry Lan Ming down from an altitude of several thousand meters. The consumption of physical strength and energy was self-evident. Don't hold on, just rest here. Ling helped Lan Ming sit down on the spot, letting Lan Ming's head rest on his shoulder, and then gently patted Ika's legs. Understanding what Ling meant, Ika did not refuse her kindness and lay down on the ground with her head on her legs. Enjoying the comfort that was more valuable than any comfort, Ika suddenly felt a little drowsy. Actually, it's not bad. In order to prevent herself from actually falling asleep on Ling's legs, Ika started talking to her. After Rosenberg and Hitomi communicated, the body seems to be much stronger than before. Could it be that this is the effect of liberating the magic equipment? When you use magic equipment, your body does feel lighter. I think it's probably similar to physical strengthening magic. I'm a little different from you. My sword of light may always be in a state of complete release of its abilities, so I don't feel it. It's the kind of contrast you mentioned. It seems that Hitomi and I were somewhat separated before. No wonder I made her angry when we first met. Ling narrowed her eyes slightly. With the two of them in this position now, she could just lower her head slightly to stare at Ika's face. You always talk about Hitomi, but in fact I still don't know what kind of person she is and what is your relationship with her. I feel very complicated when I am always left out like this. With Ling staring at her like this and enjoying the wonderful knee pillow, Ika had nowhere to hide, so he could only twitch the corners of his mouth guiltily. You also know that meeting her is not something you can just do if you want to. If there is a chance, I also want everyone to meet her. By the way, she is a very quiet girl. I miss you too. They should get along very well. Can you let me first hear the reason why you think girls who are quiet will get along with me? It should be said that two people with different personalities are easily attracted to each other. You may have something that she doesn't have, and the opposite is true. You can find what you lack in the other person. I think this is one of the values of a relationship between two people. Bar. It really scared me that you would suddenly be so emotional. I'm just telling the truth. So, do you think I'm not a quiet girl? You're interpreting what I said again. Whether it's a casual interpretation or not, is this what you really mean? At least let's put it another way. In comparison, you are more lively and cheerful, but I have never said that such a personality is not good. Under the pressure of Ling's doubts, Ika simulated several explanation methods in his mind, and finally chose this most direct explanation. Although I don't know if Ling accepted this explanation, she did not continue to put pressure on Ika with her eyes. Then, she curled her hanging hair with her fingers. Ika, what kind of personality do you think you are? Are you quiet or cheerful? Me. Although he just said so many emotional words casually, Ika himself has not thought about this issue carefully. Do you have to think about this problem for so long? Ika didn't answer for a few seconds, and Ling urged him impatiently. I'm probably half and half, that's how it feels. What kind of answer is this? Sure enough, this kind of thing needs to be evaluated by people other than yourself. The person who knows the least about you is actually yourself. Ika looked at Ling, who had a somewhat tangled expression. Ling, what kind of personality do you think I fit? Do you want me to tell you? Yeah, I think besides my parents, You are the most qualified people to evaluate this kind of problem. Ling seemed to be lost for a moment, but the lost look disappeared immediately. If you ask me, you should have a more quiet personality. After all, you are an indecisive man. Hey, that's too much. So, the personality difference between the two of us should be quite big. If you think so, then that should be it. Although she still wanted to object to a certain point that Ling said, her expression looked a little happy, so there was no more important issue than this. After a few minutes of short rest, Ika sat up from Ling's lap pillow. Not only has the physical ability been strengthened by completely liberating the magic equipment, but Tailua Senpai's blood has also given Ika a recovery power far beyond that of ordinary people. This kind of injury, which is only broken ribs and ruptured internal organs at best, will be fully recovered in less than a few minutes. How's the situation with the mobile unit? There should be no problem with air supremacy. No matter how many airships come, we probably won't be able to gain an advantage over the Protoss chieftain. We really owe Carlo a big favor this time. Without him, it would be very difficult. It's hard to dispatch their strongest chieftain Kong. This mission has fundamentally failed. It wasted so much manpower and material resources but failed to follow the clues to find the lair of the smuggling group. Although Ika didn't show his inner emotions on his face, Ling could feel the same as him just by looking at him. In addition to the frustration caused by the failure of the mission, the person who directly aroused Ika's emotions was Lan Ming, who was still sleeping on Ling's shoulder. Ling had already used the light flame sword to destroy the chains that bound Lan Ming's hands, but she still did not open her eyes under the influence of the drug. It was clear that he had used her courage, but did not allow her efforts to bear fruit. Ika attributed all of this to the consequences of his own lack of consideration. At least we have gained part of it, Ling tried to comfort Ika, who was holding back his complaints. We saw artificial humans and parasitic beasts made with the technology of the gods, and also discovered the connection between the workshop and the Chamber of Commerce. The contradiction of not sharing technology, it is difficult to get the truth about these things without personal contact. At this time, Ika's PDA vibrated as it received a new contact. After the call was connected, Wei 11's anxious voice was heard on the other side. Brother Ika, where are you and sister Ling now? Luoluo, she is in the palace now. Lolo. The name Chao Siyi thought about appeared in Wei 11's words, and Ika couldn't tolerate hesitation. He immediately positioned the current location of the three of them to Wei 11, who was staying in the Tasi sky. Without waiting too long, one of Tasi Kong's subships flew staggeringly to the position where Ika was located. Wei 11 arrived here alone based on the location sent to her by Ika and using the subship's autopilot. Is it really Luoluo? I don't know, but this is a text message sent by teacher Letica. She will not mistake Lolo. Damn it, are you trying to lure the tiger away from the mountain? Luoluo shouldn't be acting alone. The fact that she is here means that the Nemesis Society is also here. Isn't the scope of their main activities the Imperial capital? Don't worry about these details for now. Anyway, we must go back immediately. Ling supported Lan Ming to stand up. There are 4 people present now, and it is impossible to take a subship back to the Protoss Palace, which is 300 kilometers away from here. I can take everyone back. There is a mirror barrier that was set up a few days ago in my room, but I did not do this for any strange purpose, and I also got the consent of teacher Letica. Mirror enchantment is a teleportation magic that is activated jointly by 2 enchantments. As long as one of the wards is activated from where Wei 11 is, she can achieve ultra-long distance space transfer to the set mirror ward at any time and anywhere. Thank you, Wei 11, you really helped me a lot. Ika lovingly comforted Wei 11, who was explaining in a panic. If she has time later, I will ask her why she was so panicked. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 382. The surrounding area of the palace was filled with the tremors of the fierce battle. At this time, the palace of the gods, which was targeted by the parasitic beast group, was like an empty city. As soon as her feet touched the ground of the palace, Aika felt the aura of nostalgia. Like the source of uneasy fluctuations, and like intermittent threads, connecting Aika and Lulu. This feeling floating in the air clearly told Aika that Lolo was here, somewhere in this palace. It is said that the surrounding area of the palace is already infested with parasitic beasts. As for that over there, from the high palace, you can only see the mist from a distance, which is where Ruby's mist realm is activating her ability. The message teacher Letica sent to Way 11 only informed Lulu that she was here, but did not explain who else was there besides her. Among the people in the Nemesis Society who might be acting together with Lolo, Aika could only think of the frivolous man in white and the young girl following him. If the two of them were here, Aika and the others wouldn't have the energy to think about supporting Ruby. Ruby's side. Feli's fleet is already on the way and will be back soon, as are Lilu-san and Karel-san. Carlo-san stayed in the palace from the beginning, and should be by Ruby's side now. After listening to Way 11's explanation of the current situation, she could only hope that the Tasi-Kong fleet, which supported Ruby and Kara Little in their fight against the parasitic beast group, could catch up in time. Aika gritted his teeth and ran in the shortest direction according to his intuition. He didn't know the specific direction, he just held tightly to the thread connecting Lulu, believing that he would be able to find her in this direction. Lolo pressed the muzzle of his sniper rifle against Mentor Letica's head. Teacher Letica's left leg has lost the ability to move freely, and her life can easily be taken away by simply pulling the trigger. The moment Aika returned to the palace, her heart was also shaken violently because of the magical path between the two. But at this moment, she still couldn't understand this shaken body. We cannot easily use absolute royal power to trample on the dignity of others. When Lulu used this power on himself, he imprinted this principle deep in his sleeping soul. Why am I so anxious, as if something nasty is approaching me? Even though she was restless deep in her heart, she still wanted to complete the purpose of coming here in person. She knelt down in front of Instructor Letica and took out a cylindrical needle-free syringe from her waist. Teacher Letica looked at the familiar equipment and smiled. She also studied in the pharmacy department for a period of time when she was a student, so she could naturally recognize these familiar instruments at a glance. As expected, it's something from the pharmacy department. I don't think it's the antidote for this poisonous mist. This is a common hypnotic. The girl in front of her is indeed the real Lulu. Although I don't know why she has become so callous and ruthless now, there must be some hidden secret that she didn't notice. Perhaps only her brother Aika knows the secret. Following this secret, we may be able to find out her flaws. I'm sorry, I have to take you out of here right away. Although there is a more direct way for you to hand over the magic equipment, I don't want you to feel the pain, so please cooperate honestly. Just when Lulu reached out and touched Teacher Letica, preparing to inject the medicine in the tube into Teacher Letica's arm, Teacher Letica suddenly took action. She used Aurora of Mirrors to forcefully destroy the floor of the corridor. The two people who lost their footing fell to the bottom one after another, escaping from the control of the poisonous mist. Instructor Letica activated the divine floating magic to avoid falling directly to the ground, while Lolo activated the buffering magic when he landed. Instructor Letica, who regrouped faster than Lulu, naturally would not give her a chance to breathe. Jinghua's Aurora, Soul Seal. Slender light beams like thorns penetrated Lulu's body in a chaotic manner. Lulu let out a silent whine. Although her whole body was penetrated by Teacher Letica's slender beam of light, not a trace of blood flowed from her body. As the name of the ability suggests, this is an attack that works directly on the soul. Aurora of Mirrors caused the scorching energy to penetrate into her soul. The slow penetration, like gnawing at bones and flesh, was far more painful than hurting the body. While controlling Lolo's movements, Instructor Letica destroyed the needleless syringe in her hand. The aurora of mirrors, mirror of 10,000 flowers. Several rectangular one-way mirrors and soul seals tightly locked up Lugo from top to bottom, left and right. It's unknown how long this can trap Lugo, it's just a stopgap measure for now. It's not that Instructor Letica doesn't have the ability to knock down Lolo, it's just that she thinks it should be up to Aika to decide how to deal with Lolo. Aika-kun, come here quickly. Running in the castle, Aika didn't see anyone. I heard that the children of the Sea Mist Fleet were also staying in the palace today, so everyone may have evacuated under the guidance of the waiter. Earthquakes from the outside world spread to the ground of the palace from time to time, and the screams of the parasitic beasts were no closer than what they first heard. It seemed that the Protoss troops led by Ruby and Carolil had successfully contained them. The latest violent vibration came from inside the palace. Originally, Aika didn't care about the shock. However, a few seconds later, a sharp pain penetrated Aika's heart like something. The sharp pain that almost caused gastrointestinal spasm and vomiting caused him to break out in cold sweat, and he fell to his knees unsteadily. Aika. Ling reached out and hugged his body in time before he fell. She did not allow Aika to continue to stand up, but helped him sit down with his back against the cracked wall. I sweat a lot. When the handkerchief wiped Aika's face, most of it was already soaked. Is it because Luo is nearby? It may be the influence of that magic channel. Aika, how do you feel now? Both Ling and Wei 11 knew that there was some special power connecting Aika and Luo, and the two became one through this power. The pain felt by Luo will also be fed back to Aika. There was no color on Aika's face, and the pain directly felt by his soul and the fatigue of his body melted together. Lolo is right in front. You can't do anything even if you are in front of Luo like this. Wei 11, stay with him and watch him. If anything happens, I will inform you first. Putting her handkerchief into Wei 11's hand before she could speak, Ling immediately prepared to stand up and move on. But there was an inexplicable force that grabbed her arm. It was Aika. Who says I can't move on? Even if she just couldn't let go of her pride, Aika would never allow Ling to face Luo instead of herself, who should have been the first to arrive. Ling had no choice but to squat down again in front of Aika. Hold his hand tightly and ease his pain as much as possible. The shaking on the ground became more and more violent, and the palace seemed to begin to shake. There were explosions and rising smoke outside the window that were incomparable to those before. It seemed that the mobile troops rushed back to the palace as quickly as possible. Probably with the protection of Ruby's Mirror of Mist, Feli is unscrupulously using the heavy weapons carried by Tasi Kong to launch a sweep against the parasitic beast group on the ground. If the mobile unit returns in time, at least the defense around the palace can feel at ease. Just when Aika wanted to take a breath, the giant steel snake suddenly attacked and completely destroyed the corridor around them and the ceiling. The ceiling turned into countless huge stones falling towards the three of them. The phosphorus birdcage. When it came into contact with Wei 11's barrier, it was broken into scattered debris. The young girl holding a mechanical longbow walked slowly from behind the giant steel snake hovering in the sky. Misty. It happens. Misty held the giant steel snake with her hand and looked down at the three of Aika. You seem to be here, so I came here first. Even when facing three people, there was no trace of fear in Misty's expression. She seemed to just look like the outcome would be good no matter what. Starbao 5 Emperor's Constellation 1 Chain Detonation. The giant steel snake raised its tail, and the moment it came into contact with the floor of the corridor, it created a raging heat wave, and even the falling stones were picked up by the wind pressure. But it seems that this level cannot shake Wei 11's defense, or Misty's original goal was not them. The heat wave rolled over, leaving behind a cliff-like ravine at the explosion site, and the building materials on the lower floors turned into broken walls dripping with high-temperature molten slurry. Aika has experienced this kind of scene countless times. It is enough to know that Misty's purpose is to block her way. Where is Luoluo? He stood up holding onto the wall. I don't know if he has developed a sense of resistance against the various obstructions of the Nemesis Society, or if he cares about Lolo more than anything else. The pain in his soul seems not worth mentioning now. Misty tilted her head and pointed obediently to the end of the corridor that had turned into a cliff. But I don't want you to go there. She faced the three hostile people again. Although that person asked me to find the magic equipment, you are the ones we're wants. I don't know what you want to express. Ling held the sword in front. Now was not the time to be held back by Misty. Regardless of whether Misty is lying or not, the Lolo they are looking for must be just ahead of Aika's intuition. Wei 11 raised her hand, and pure white magic was released from the fault space, entangling Misty and the giant steel snake. I'll hold her back. She tried her best to show a strong smile. Brother Aika and sister Ling, go pick up Luoluo. Can Wei 11 do it alone? Needless to say, the answer is that Aika can confidently leave her back to Wei 11. We'll be back soon, Wei 11, hold on. Aika's hands let go of the wall supporting her body. Mechanical alchemy, skeleton circuit. A silver-white full-body exoskeleton covered Aika's whole body, and all the accumulated load on the body seemed to be absorbed by the silver-white armor covering the whole body. The mechanical wings of the same color on the back have also been modified into small thrusters integrated into part of the exoskeleton of the whole body. Ling, we are ready to force a breakthrough. What's going on? What is this, Aika? Aika completely ignored the confused Ling's screams and hugged her with both hands without any explanation. The thrusters on the back ejected silvery white magic particles, and the two people hugging each other turned into a silvery white light, quickly breaking through Misty, who was restrained by Wei 11. However, Misty did not try to stop their ideas. When Aika and Ling passed by, she was still looking at Wei 11, who had a serious look on the opposite side. Even if the aurora of mirrors could control Lolo for a long enough time, the poisonous mist had already penetrated into Teacher Letika's body, and her hands and feet had become obviously paralyzed. The reason why her thinking was not affected was because she needed to retain her thinking ability to voluntarily give up the possession of the magic equipment. If this continues, it will only be a matter of time before the toxicity spreads throughout the body, and may even cause irreversible damage, which cannot be alleviated without Luoluo's antidote. When Teacher Letika was exhausted physically and mentally, she could no longer maintain the ability of Aurora of Mirrors, and the coffin of 10,000 flowers mirror that imprisoned Lolo lost its effect. The silver-white sniper rifle is also a product of magic power. When Luoluo's soul is directly attacked, it turns into magic particles and dissipates. After she was released from the confinement, her knees were weak and she knelt on the ground. Sweat dripped down her cheeks and became one with the dust. The pain remains unabated. Although the soul has been liberated, more and more heart-burning anxiety follows. Lolo. The shouts coming from the end of the broken corridor made her raise her head and look at the man who turned into a meteor and flew towards her. The Silver Knight, fully equipped with armor, placed his feet firmly on the ground and put down the blonde girl he was holding. Ling jumped out of Aika's arms as if she was about to escape, and casually arranged her clothes that had become a little messy when she arrived. Tell me before you do it. While complaining to himself, he summoned the light flame sword. This is the first time that Luoluo and Aika stand in the same space after leaving home. What is reflected in the red eyes is the tall figure of the Silver Knight holding two guns. Her lips seemed to move, but she did not call Aika brother as affectionately as usual. The younger sister in a dark wedding dress was also reflected in Aika's eyes. There are obviously many things that I want to tell her, but when I really see her, I can't say a word. Lolo. Aika wanted to get closer to Luoluo, but the look Luoluo looked at him made him stay away. I have never seen Lugo look at him with such terrifying eyes. Even the look in his eyes when he was angry was 100 times better than now. At the same time, a more severe cramp than before hit Ika's heart. However, the expression on Lugo's face looked even more painful than him. No matter what Lugo is thinking now, Ika just wanted to reach out and touch her body, to feel the reality that she was indeed right in front of him. A glass bottle the size of a fingernail appeared between Lugo's fingers that did not exist before. Perhaps Lugo's fingers were trembling unconsciously. The glass bottle slipped from her slender fingers and fell to the ground with a crisp shattering sound. The magic circle that suddenly unfolded enveloped the three of them. And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 383. Unlike transfer magic, there is no dizziness when the magic is activated, but the scene in front of you is refreshed like a camera switch. If Way 11 were around, he would be able to tell whether the scene in front of him was a transferred place or a domain constructed by magic. But one thing Ika is sure of is that it is impossible for Lolo himself to use the most special field in enchantment magic. Even though her learning ability is very strong, enchantment magic and healing magic also require a certain amount of talent. If my sister is not a fool, she should be obedient and stay by her side now, instead of letting everyone search the world for her. This is the inside of a cold and dark steel building. You can hear the slight sound of wind blowing in from the cracks in the wall. It's such an uncomfortable place. This eerie feeling that makes one's hair stand on end was the first impression this space gave to Ling. The temperature here is much lower than what it should be in early summer, and this contrast is definitely not a good feeling. The two of them were not surprised by the sudden change of scene in front of them, but had become accustomed to it. Perhaps due to the influence of the runes engraved on the steel walls, Lugo's breath was blocked here. The dim steel walls were engraved with runes, which were similar to the space fili used to store the mimicry magic equipment. Have you analyzed the magic circle that sent us here to see if it was a transfer magic circle? That's why I say that we need to study the basic theory of constructing a magic circle. It will be useful now. Ika checked the status of the two silver pistols in his hands and answered casually, which meant that he didn't know whether the magic was transferred just now, and whether this place was still within the territory of the gods. Ling looked at him in disbelief. Don't you have any weird feelings? Strange feeling. That's the Lugo we saw just now. She is Lugo. Ika finally pulled down the gun bolt and made two click sounds. No one can imitate her appearance in front of me. She is actually not in a good mood now as usual. It feels more or less the same at that time. As long as I know that she is indeed here, but she is too far away from us, I feel a little more at ease. I didn't expect you to be so calm. Calm down. Ika seemed to really think about this issue for a while. I didn't expect that I would be in this state of mind now. Whether everyone told themselves that Lugo had left countless times, or watched the video of Lugo leaving her farewell, the same fact was emphasized. Even so, Ika couldn't find any sense of reality. When he closed his eyes and opened them again, his sister who was supposed to be by his side left without saying goodbye. This kind of thing sounds like a fantasy. Only after seeing her standing on the opposite side of him, and seeing her taking the initiative to leave in front of him, Ika felt much more relieved. Now that she's where I can see her, all I have to do is bring her back. It's rare to hear you say such strong words. Because she's my sister. Ika said this, and Ling had nothing else to say, so he could only deal with it casually like as you like. Speaking of which, what on earth is this thing of yours that looks like armor? Is that what you're asking? Ika moved her body. A moment ago, his whole body was still so heavy that even if he took a single step, his whole body would scream, but now his body is unusually light, which is more direct than the magic that strengthens the body's functions. This is the armor made by Hitomi herself. I only got it from Misty when she showed up just now. It's really not surprising that you can do anything with your magic costume, he is obviously such a positive child, but from your description, he seems very shy. How to say? Probably, Hitomi just doesn't like to show her true side, and the only exception is herself, who has made a contract with her. She once said that she doesn't like to be interfered by others, and letting others see her true side may be one of the things she hates. Looking up and looking around, this place looks like some kind of factory, full of the industrial atmosphere of the northwest region of the Bes Empire. It seems there is only one way: keep going forward. Ling paused. Although I want to say this, the person who greeted us came to the door so quickly. From the light emitted from the end of the space, dozens of giant bodies appeared with heavy footsteps. The obviously non-human bodies told Ling and Ika their identities. It's a parasitic beast. There are also parasitic beasts here, and it's also the place where Luoluo transferred back. Before, you said that when we were chasing the smuggling group, Luoluo's appearance in the Protoss Palace was a strategy to divert the tiger away from the mountain. Now I also think that this smuggling group and the Nemesis Society should be partners in the same boat. Are you sure? If you are really not sure, you can only ask the manager of this factory directly. Ika raised his silver-white guns and launched an airtight barrage in an unhurried manner. Each bullet composed of magic power carried a fierce impact, knocking the alien's huge body away. After a round of barrage attacks, Ling's sword of light made a sound of breaking wind in the air, sweeping away the second layer of enemies like a gust of wind. When the golden trajectory flashed, a new rain of bullets poured out from the barrel of the gun held by Ika. Mechanical Alchemy, Vulcan Cannon Alliance. The multi-barreled gun body rotates, and the bullets fired from the muzzle are no longer made of magic power, but are metal slugs designed to pursue sputtering and penetrating power. Ling used the alien that was about to become a victim of the bullets as a focus, jumped into the air, held the red gold blade tightly and stabbed straight into the ground. Elemental Control, Phantom Light. A tornado of 4 colors rolled up on the spot, turning the remaining aliens, including their flesh and bones, into ashes. Ika and Ling work seamlessly together. From the moment the parasitic beast group appeared in front of the two of them, they didn't even move forward 1 meter. Somewhere in the steel building, cables of different colors were tangled on the ground. Some of the pipes are transparent and bright, and a faint light flows silently through the pipes. Those are different materials used by the two technologies. Various instruments are piled haphazardly in the slightly crowded space, emitting indicator lights of different colors. Oh, it seems that 2 little white mice ran in, and the parasitic beast seems to be unable to stop them. In front of the big screen that monitors the fight between the uninvited guests and the parasitic beast group, a woman with long wavy hair hanging naturally is holding her cheek on her side, leaning her elbow on the armrest of the seat, looking at the man and woman with interest. Completely eliminate the parasitic beast group. A smaller girl is nestled on the woman's knees. Her long hair is tied into a ball with cute hair accessories, and is coiled on the left and right sides. The girl seemed to be taking a nap next to her with her eyes closed. After hearing her words, she opened her slightly moist eyes and blinked like a cat. Do I need Komaka to handle it? The woman pondered for a while. I have some impressions of those 2 people. Although it seems good to use them as experimental subjects, I intuitively feel that they are a bit dangerous. Go ahead, Komaka. Finally, the woman came to a conclusion and let go of the girl in her arms. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 384. This steel building is divided into several different areas, and the lighting becomes brighter and brighter as you go deeper. The walls are no longer made of steel plates engraved with runes, but are instead white walls made of special materials, glowing faintly under the lighting. There are various instruments and sinks everywhere here that I don't understand how to use, but they seem to have not been used for a long time and are just piled around. This place is completely different from the place we came before. It's probably deep. With so many defensive measures in front, The owner here probably thought that not many people could make it this far. Along the way, various forms of parasitic beasts appeared, as well as mechanical traps, but the two of them unexpectedly passed through them all without any injuries. The magic I felt along the way just now was very weak, but the barrier field constructed by magic cannot feel like this. Coupled with the parasitic beasts and those traps. The steel building that houses parasitic beasts and is full of industrial atmosphere made Ika determine that this was one of the bases of the workshop or chamber of commerce. Lolo operates with the Nemesis Society, but the place she moved to is the home of the smuggling group. It is difficult not to connect the two. It doesn't matter how the Nemesis Society and the smuggling group deal with it. Ika is not concerned about this kind of thing at all. He just wants to know why Lolo comes together with them. When the two of them walked to the intersection of lights. Ling. As soon as he called out Ling's name, Ika responded with Ling's blade. Ika quickly put the two pistols in front of him to block, and the blade and the gun body collided, creating a string of sparks. Ling didn't give Ika a chance to react. He used the reaction force of the blade to raise his leg and kick towards Ika's wrist. The two pistols separated from Ika's hands and fell behind him. After Ling Xingyun smoothly performed the gorgeous kick, his body was still accumulating energy to prepare for the killing blow. Although Ling's initial blow caught the unprepared Ika off guard, he already understood what happened during the brief battle. Ling, what are you doing? No. The sword of light and the long-barreled cannon collided suddenly, locked in a stalemate. Ika drove the exoskeleton of his body and struggled to raise Ling's blade. Then the regenerated pistol and barrel suppressed the blade of the light flame sword. At this moment, Ika and Ling's eyes met, and then he realized how abnormal the current situation was. Ling's breathing was very disordered, and the fear of the unexpected situation could not be hidden in his eyes. It was obviously impossible for her to launch such a swift and violent attack in this state, but her body acted like a puppet regardless of her body's condition. Ling glanced at Ika with a pleading look, and once again launched an offensive like a torrent. He jumped into the air with a vigorous posture, displaying swordsmanship and physical skills that were integrated into one. It was impossible for Ika to use weapons to fight back against Ling. He could only drive his whole body exoskeleton to continuously resist Ling's attacks, and was gradually at a disadvantage of being suppressed by Ling. Ling's attack was too harsh, leaving Ika no room to think about how to respond. She found a gap in Ika's defense, rushed into his arms, and gave him a hard blow to the abdomen with the handle of the knife, finally completely destroying Ika's defense. Psychic magic? Or is it the ability of unknown magic equipment? Ika was driven away while driving all her brain cells to think hard. There were no signs of magic being activated around him, and Ling would have noticed it if there had been. Looking at Ling, who was standing with a knife, her expression did not collapse due to the series of unknown events. Instead, she gritted her teeth and tried hard to prevent her body from acting against her will. Light flame sword, if this continues, wouldn't it be like someone else is wielding you casually? When you lent me your power, we had a few words in person, but now you are silently being treated as someone who doesn't know who you are. Isn't it very shameful to wave it around like a tool? Golden particles began to stir around Ling's body, as if the light flame sword was giving Ling a series of reproachful answers. The activation of magic is not affected by the body. As long as you calm down, you can use the ability of the light flame sword as usual. Ika, protect yourself. After hearing these words, Ika knew that Ling was ready to give it a try, and he drove his entire body's exoskeleton to quickly retreat toward higher ground. Light flame sword, elemental control. Find out all the hidden things. The power of colorful natural elements suddenly stirred up a frenzy of magic. Various elements are gathered together and then blended, and the energy is compressed again and again. Flying sand and rocks, Ling's magic turned into a storm of destruction. Tens of millions of interactions occur within the natural elements that merge with each other in milliseconds. The energy that spreads swallows up everything around it, like the incarnation of destruction. Under the raging force of this overwhelming force, everything around him was destroyed by a strong storm. Way 11 has never used a destructive barrier. She's just not good at using it, or to be precise, she doesn't want to use any magic that hurts people. Originally, I just wanted to hold Misty back, but the destructive power of her magic outfit Starbow 5 Emperors 1 was too great. What should I do? Although Misty still hasn't broken through Way 11's defense, she has caused unsightly damage to the palace. In desperation, Way 11 had no choice but to move the battlefield to the field. If you need to suppress that kind of destructive power to a minimum, the ice field is undoubtedly the best choice, and it can weaken the attack power of fire magic to the greatest extent. The barrier originally used to restrain Misty was only suitable for unexpected sneak attacks, and there was no chance of using it a second time after that. Misty was riding on the giant steel snake, and she relentlessly launched all-out attacks on Way 11. She seems to have only one purpose, which is to break Way 11's absolute defense. Way 11 did not use all her strength from the beginning of the battle, but only adopted a defensive posture as much as possible to delay time. Misty had already noticed this. Obviously she no longer had to accompany this kind of farce, but Misty was piqued by the girl in front of her who looked to be the same age as herself. No one on either side said a word during the battle, because from the many confrontations from the past to the present, Way 11 already knew that communication was of little significance. If it were Way 11 in the past, she might still want to resolve disputes through verbal communication as much as possible. Through training again and again, she understood that sometimes fighting is also a way of communication. The ice field has turned into a wasteland of broken ice, where the everlasting flames and the unmelting ice face the wind. Way 11 realized that she was in a completely passive position in this war of attrition, and that as the defending party, it was likely that the flaw would be caught and put her in a disadvantageous situation. She decided to try to use attacks to open a breakthrough. Multiple focus. Kang Liao's birdcage did not have all-round protection, because if the only person who needed protection was himself, there would be no need for such a waste of magic power. She flexibly adjusted the position of the pale magic barrier. Under absolute defense, Way 11 quietly stacked 5 magic arrays of varying sizes on her fingertips. As far as basic magic is concerned, Way 11 is only above average as a student of Frost Moon Academy, so it will definitely be difficult to deal with Misty. So you can only use your own abilities to strengthen the basic magic. Way 11 continued to fill the 5-layer magic array with magic power. The pure white light is blooming more and more, the magic power has been compressed to the maximum, and it is ready to go. The attack power of this attack is no less than that of the mobile 6-link attack constructed by mechanical alchemy. Way 11 believes that she will never lag behind Hitomi. Misty also noticed the danger of this magic power. She drew the bowstring of the mechanical longbow and was wary of Way 11's vigorous attack. I won't let you run away, imprisonment. Taking advantage of the moment when Misty's attention was all focused on her fingertips, Way 11 manipulated the third barrier to restrain the giant steel snake and Misty in mid-air. Without missing any second, the compressed and focused magic bombardment was further strengthened as it passed through the phosphorus birdcage and shot straight towards Misty, who could not avoid it. The realm will consume Way 11's magic power as it is destroyed internally, but the destruction caused by her own magic power is closer to transformation and will not have an uncomfortable impact on Way 11, so she can give it a try. The power of annihilation is like a rainbow penetrating the sun. This was the first time Way 11 directly used the power of destruction to attack someone. Her hands couldn't stop shaking from the moment she made up her mind. Misty, who received a direct blow, was not unscathed. Her body fell from the air like falling leaves, and she finally managed to activate the buffering magic. The dark dress became tattered, and the little bear doll lying on the shoulder also revealed the cotton stuffing inside. but it seemed that she was not fatally injured due to the ability of the magic costume. Seeing that Misty's life was not in danger, Way 11 breathed a sigh of relief. That person is no longer here, and I want to go back. After falling back to the ground, Misty retracted the mechanical longbow and turned it back into a slender chain wrapped around her wrist. That person refers to Lugo Lugo. Misty nodded, not trying to hide anything. Is it okay to stop here today? This is the first face-to-face communication between the two since the battle. Way 11 nodded hurriedly and released the realm according to Misty's request. If this was a life-and-life battle, it would be abnormal to comply with the enemy's demands. Way 11 herself didn't realize this, she just felt relieved that the battle was finally over. Misty narrowed her eyes slightly to observe Way 11, which made Way 11 feel uneasy like thorns all over her body. I hate good kids pretending to be good, especially someone like you. With these words, Misty activated the transfer magic, and her petite figure disappeared with the light of magic. It wasn't until she couldn't feel anyone's presence around her that Way 11 knelt down on the ground dejectedly. It's not because too much magic power was consumed in the battle. Even after experiencing such a fierce battle, Way 11 did not feel any obvious symptoms of magic exhaustion. Misty's words made her a little concerned. Why would she say that? Way 11 couldn't think clearly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 385. After Ling triggered the destructive storm of elemental fusion, everything in its path was wiped out. It was reduced to ashes, not even a wreckage was left. The damaging storm damaged the entire building's siding. The strong wind passed through the broken walls, and the scenery outside the steel building could already be seen from here. You can tell without looking outside that the main body of the steel building is a suspended tower. The flowing wind told Ika so. Ika, on the other hand, used a temporary mechanical shield to isolate the destructive storm of the light flame sword, and did not release the defense until the explosion subsided. He did not approach Ling rashly, standing in the center of the storm. Maybe the magic controlling her was still not released. But when he saw Lingju slipping to the ground holding the handle of the knife, he quickly stepped forward and hugged her body. Isn't it too chaotic? Otherwise there is no other way. This level of destructive storm only used the magic power of the light flame sword, and Ling was only temporarily exhausted physically and mentally. I just felt it, there is a magic weapon nearby. Surely, is that the power of the magic suit? Now that we know the true form of the unknown force, we can definitely find a way to fight it. I'm sorry, I just attacked you. It's not your fault, it's not you who should apologize to me. It's so spectacular. All the facilities on this floor have been abandoned. Even the facilities on the upper and lower floors were burned down by 3/4 of them due to the magic burst. This kind of destructive power has far exceeded the average level of magic equipment. Bar. The sudden female voice made Ika and Ling raise their heads and look at the ceiling, which had been mostly hollowed out, revealing the ruins of the walls and the thick cables buried in them. Standing on the suspended magic circle is a mature woman with long wavy hair. Under the white coat she wears casually, she wears a Bis Empire researcher uniform decorated with gold threads. She appears in such a dress that her identity can be known at a glance. In front of Ika and Ling. And beside the woman stood a girl similar in age to Luoluo. Her appearance is very childish, with a hint of childishness, and her eyes, as clear and transparent as glass, reveal a mysterious color. The clothing she wore was a girlish style that was incompatible with the women around her, or rather this industrial-looking steel building. The fluttery dress is embellished with a large number of ruffles. The buns on both sides are tied with ribbons of the same design, and she wears a soft dome hat on her head. The magic power erupted by Ling and the light flame sword has swallowed up everything around them. These two people did not exist here before. Were you the ones who did it just now? Ling raised his sword of light and pointed it at the two people watching on the wall. This uniform, it seems that Lan Ming's intuition is right. This smuggling group is indeed related to the BZ Empire. Don't be anxious, I don't deny that I let this child test you. The woman with her hands in the pockets of her white coat smiled slightly, looking harmless. I am Mishi, I was once a member of the BZ Empire. You are an unobtrusive researcher, but even if you investigate my name, you will probably leave little information behind. Then she gently patted the girl next to her who was clinging to her. This child's name is Komaki, which is the name I gave her. Our relationship with her can be regarded as mother and daughter, even though I'm not married yet. The girl Komaki, who was pushed out by Misia, seemed to be a little embarrassed. Her glass-like clear and transparent eyes said so. After introducing the two people on his side, Mixie immediately asked Ika and Ling a series of questions without even asking their names. You were just talking to your magic costumes, right? Do your magic costumes have the same consciousness as humans? Also, if possible, let me communicate with them too. Ha! Ling frowned in confusion. She had no idea what Misia wanted to express. Young man, and the girl over there, your magic costumes all have their own hearts, right? Although I don't know what you are asking, we did have communication. Really? It's true. It's obviously just a medium to activate magic, but it has its own heart. Don't you think it's weird? Misia lowered the height of the suspended magic circle and wanted to get closer to the two of them, but Ling raised the light flame sword to stop her. Don't get me wrong, I'm not planning to hurt you. I'm only interested in magic equipment. Who are you and why are you here? I don't care about any of this. By the way, have you never felt strange? The so-called autonomous consciousness, in fact, does it mean heart? Everyone has the ability to think independently and not be dominated by others. This is the privilege given to higher creatures. But after the emergence of magic equipment, this privilege is no longer our exclusive privilege. As far as we know, at least half of the magic equipment can communicate with the holder in consciousness. So what exactly is the so-called heart? Can it be called a heart just because it can think and have desires? Or is it? You say that the soul and spirit in the field of magic research is the so-called heart? If you say so, as long as you simulate a soul and spirit that can think and have desires, and then transplant it into the magic circuit of the magic machine, you can artificially create it, right? Are you out of your mind? Is this person a lunatic? Ling frowned, she seems to be a scientist. Being able to create a mimicry magic outfit at least proves that she is indeed capable. Ika, will you become like her in the future? Is it like this? If it's going to be like this, I'd rather drop out of school now. Besides, we're also studying magic mechanics, and Professor Coconut is much more normal in comparison. Although Professor Coconut is also different from ordinary people, for example, she wears a white shirt casually in the research room without wearing underwear. When she wants to sleep, she can easily fall asleep anywhere, including under the table in the research room. Let us clarify the important issues first. You are the person in charge here, right? Huh? That's right. Where is Luoluo? Luoluo? Remember, is she the new girl who came recently? Is she here now? It seems that Misia did not assist Luoluo, but she escaped here on her own initiative. Ika originally wanted to get more information about Luoluo from Mishi, but judging from her reaction, it seemed that she had not had much dealings with Luoluo. Since you are the person in charge of this factory, that means you also made the mimicry magic suit, right? That's right, I didn't expect you to know about the mimicry magic costume. After all, there are too few real magic costumes, and the sample size is seriously insufficient. If you want to find out the truth, You can only rely on your own hands. You should be very clear about the side effects that kind of thing will have on people who use it, right? Side effects? Does it have anything to do with me? She tilted her head, as if she really couldn't understand what Ling was asking. The mimicry magic equipment is just a tool I use to collect data. As long as I can collect data, there will be no problem. Bar. That's it, there's no need to continue the conversation. Mishi is indeed a madman, the epitome of a mad scientist. The girl beside her, Komaki, didn't seem to object to the madman's absurd words. She just listened quietly. It seems that as long as I defeat you, the source of the problem can be solved. Ling's eyes turned to Ika beside him. Ika, Luoluo's matter can only be postponed temporarily. If we let this opportunity go now, there may be no next time. I know. Ika also regrouped and was mentally prepared to fight the magic equipment holder. Do you want to be my enemy? To be honest, I hope we can communicate well. The reason why people have a heart is to keep thinking, rather than just using force to solve problems. I am here to communicate with you personally. Just to create a spark of thinking collision between heart and heart. Unfortunately, before the spark of collision of ideas has occurred, the values between us have already collided with sparks. First of all, it should be impossible for us to want you to stop making mimicry magic equipment. After all, you just can't listen. A perfect example of a mad scientist and a negative example. By the way, it's because you are a member of the Nemesis Society. My relationship with the Nemesis Society is very bad now, and I will never let anyone be a member of them, because they took advantage of my sister. Oh, that's it, I don't agree with what the young man mentioned later. I only have a cooperative relationship with the Nemesis Society. Whatever they do has nothing to do with me, although this is just a verbal agreement. You, my sister, has nothing to do with me. Ika and Ling's emotions were already high, but Mish, who knew that the battle was imminent, raised the corners of his mouth without any fear. If we fight here, my workshop will definitely be scrapped. She snapped her fingers, and the entire steel building suddenly vibrated with rumbles. The amplitude of the vibration turned out to be greater, as if something huge was approaching here. What? Both Ling and Ika felt that the creepy threat was approaching, and each took avoidance. Komaki, let's go play with them. But be careful not to destroy their magic costumes, and recover them intact. Yes, mother. The next moment, the behemoth burst out of the ground from the bottom of the steel building. It was like a snake covered in scales, or like a dragon without claws. There is no obvious head, and what appears to be a head is a spiral, round mouth with rapidly rotating saw teeth as if to crush everything. It jumped into the sky, then turned sharply and swallowed the unmoving Mish with its saw-toothed maw, while Komaki jumped onto the body of the steel dragon. The behemoth's body seemed to be the product of the fusion of artificial creatures and magical machinery, full of nausea and coercion. The puppet maker's cross. Ika could see very clearly that invisible magic threads extended from Komaki's fingers and connected to the body of the steel dragon. The pink magic light instantly traveled throughout the giant body. She danced her fingers flexibly, and the giant steel dragon suddenly knocked Ika and Ling out of the tower together. There was a floating feeling under my feet. The top of the tower seemed to have passed through the clouds, and a fall from this height would be fatal. However, Ika's silver-white armor gave him the ability to fight in the air, while Ling stabbed the light flame sword into the steel dragon's body without any mercy, without being thrown out. This is the product of the fusion of magic machinery and artificial creatures, a living incarnation of the name Disaster. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 386. The royal palace of the gods has noticed the strange movements in this abandoned tower, and the appearance of the incarnation of Disaster has attracted everyone's attention. The people there should be Ika and Ling, right? Judging from the magic power fluctuations of the magic equipment, it should be the two of them. They act like this every time. What kind of monster are they fishing out? Although they were a little surprised to see this kind of thing, Feli and Carol were already used to it. Apart from the left leg and partial abrasions, Instructor Ridika had no other serious injuries. The poisonous mist used by Luluo was mainly used to take away the resistance of Teacher Letica, rather than the poison that took people's lives. Now Ruby is taking care of Tutor Letica, who is on bed rest. All the parasitic beast groups besieging the palace have been eliminated, and now the command of the scene has been handed over from Ruby to Carolil. With this kind of monster as my opponent, I also want to take part in it myself. This is not as simple as taking part, right? I have been wandering on the sea for such a long time, and I have never encountered the legendary sea monster. In fact, I am really disappointed. I think the legendary sea monster should be about the same size as that thing, right? If you really encounter a sea monster, there will be a lot of crying on the boat. Ha ha ha, how is that possible? Philly waved her hands casually as if she heard a joke, and Carol glanced at her angrily. I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about these little guys. Philly quickly turned her head and saw that the children who stayed in the palace had all crowded into the command room from unknown time. The faces of the girls, who had only heard fairy tales, were filled with frightened expressions of seeing disgusting monsters for the first time. We won't encounter it. We have never encountered any sea monster in all these years, right? Philly could only hurriedly turn to appease the innocent children who were filled with silence and uneasiness, and had no time to care about the exciting battle situation at the scene. What is this? It's not as disgusting as usual. Even Corel, whose mental age is slightly more mature than the children, couldn't help but cover her mouth with her hands, while the white hairy jade bounced on her shoulders with no meaning. If Relu hadn't gone to the bathroom temporarily, she would have had the same reaction when she saw this monster. Anyway, let's try our best to reinforce them here. Tasi Kong doesn't need supplies yet. Hearing the word reinforcement, Philly immediately looked at Carolil holding the organization power with an expectant expression. Carolil could only sigh, feeling that if she refused, there would be more trouble. For example, she might run back and drive the entire sea mist fleet to the nearby sea area for air bombardment. I know, I will take you with me, don't worry. Philly made a victory sign and immediately squeezed out from among the children. I'm going to get ready. As Philly left, the frightened children also poured out of the command room like an ebbing tide. Where's Lilu-senpai? Corel was not in the mood to play around with Philly. She was just preparing to take all the children back to the ship on Feli's behalf. After all, the palace is very busy now, so the idea of letting them live here temporarily can only be given up. Ika drives the silver-white full-body exoskeleton, and the thrusters behind it eject magic particles to help him hover in the air. Suddenly, a very nostalgic and calm voice came into my mind. That's troublesome stuff. Hitomi? Are you talking about that big-looking thing? That magic outfit is also very troublesome. Like the candle dragon molten gold, it's a nasty thing that only interferes with others. It seems that the appearance of that magic costume made you feel very bad. The giant steel dragon will not leave her time to communicate with Ika just because Hitomi suddenly appears. The bloody saw-toothed Moor returns with the purpose of devouring Ika. Ika quickly drove the propeller to quickly escape from the attack and avoided the blow. Unexpectedly, Hitomi would appear in person in this battle. Ika thought that he should thank the enemy for giving him the precious opportunity to talk to Hitomi. Hitomi, is there any way to deal with that thing? The Mobile 6th Alliance must have ground support. This is airspace, and all that can be used are portable weapons, and the attack power cannot keep up. Use Yggdrasil to destroy it. It's impossible to summon the aviation magic ship here. If it were the ancient super-large aviation guided ship Yggdrasil, The fierce firepower of the joint armed forces carried on the ship could definitely destroy the steel dragon until not even the dregs were left, but just thinking about that picture is a bit confusing. Too exaggerated. All other weapons that can be thought of now are very powerless in front of the steel dragon. Moreover, the defense of that thing should not be weak. From the perspective of human magic machinery, that thing is very complete, and it exudes the smell of magic equipment. Magic costume. Aika didn't notice this just now. Now that I hear Hitomi's reminder, I can indeed feel a special wave similar to that of a magic suit. Could it be that that thing is also a kind of mimicry magic costume? Hitomi seemed to be thinking about something and did not answer Aika's question. But if this is a mimicry magic weapon, it cannot be activated by anyone who does not supply the magic power. The person who uses it. Only then did Aika realize that the giant steel dragon had just swallowed Mixie, and the person who was now supplying magic power to the mimicry magic outfit was Mixie, who was inside it. As the initiator of the creation of mimicry magic equipment, Mishi should know best the final fate of the user. It is unimaginable that she actively became a victim just to drive away the intruders. A red-gold magical tornado suddenly rolled up on the giant steel dragon's body, instantly piercing through the huge body. That was the ability of the light flame sword. Ling, who was riding on the steel dragon, launched a direct attack at the closest distance. Ling no longer used the light flame sword as a foothold for support. Instead, he jumped and ran flexibly on the giant steel dragon, using the giant body as a point of force, constantly moving his position to perform continuous slashes like a rainstorm. The giant steel dragon could not face its own body, but was circling and twisting uncomfortably, while Ling continued to leave traces of destruction on its body. The holder of the light flame sword wants to find out the core of the mimicry magic equipment. It was probably the light flame sword who told her to do so. Core. If we use human magic mechanics to explain it, the core is the molecular power furnace. That's right. As long as the molecular power furnace is stopped. But it's basically impossible to achieve. It is really difficult to find the core from the steel dragon's body, and to maintain balance while digging for the core so as not to be thrown off. If it weren't for Ling's superior combat power, it would have been impossible to buy Aika so much time to think. Another difficulty now is that Aika does not have a communication device and cannot communicate with Ling, who is far away. At this time, the steel dragon changed its target. Even though Ling's attack did not stop, it no longer cared about itself, but ignored the attack on its back and rushed straight towards Aika. Master, it's been noticed. Hitomi seemed to be reminding Aika gently in her ear, and Aika escaped from the saw-toothed mouth at the critical moment. The giant steel dragon seemed to have forgotten its own pain and targeted Aika again and again. Komaki, who originally jumped onto the steel dragon's body, has left the most dangerous area and is standing behind the damaged wall, waving his fingers and controlling the movements of this behemoth. Aika was caught in a fight with the giant steel dragon like a seagull caught in a strong wind. He tried to fire a shot with the long barrel of the cannon in his hand, but the damage caused to the giant body was insignificant at all. The Puppet Master's cross is a magical costume that can forcibly control all tangible things. That woman is the key. But I want to get closer. As if protecting a tower, the giant steel dragon was entrenched in front of the damaged wall where the girl was standing, preventing Aika from taking action against Komaki. It seems like it's impossible to stop Komaki without destroying this big guy until he can't move. Unable to find a breakthrough, Aika was forced to attack the giant steel snake as a priority.